Hi, Lauren. Thanks for having me. It's great to be back. Today, I have a tale of the macabre for you, and it is the worst accident that ever occurred here in Lancaster County. Happened on June 9th, 1906, in Conestoga Township.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, now let's dig in, Adam. Tell us about it.
All right. Well, in order to really fully understand why and where, we're going to have to go back in time 3 years to 1903 in the building of the Anoa Low Grade. Now, today it's a popular hiking, biking, running destination, but it's a 29, almost 29-mile stretch of basically perfectly level ground, and it goes from Acklen all the way to Crestwell. Now, back in the day, it went west of Harrisburg, but today that's kind of the main stretch there. And this was back in the day when my grandfather said, the railroad had more money than they knew what to do with. And so they decided to build basically a freight bypass line to alleviate traffic off of the passenger freight line, off of the passenger lines, and create this bypass. And so the goal of this ambitious project was basically have a grade that's no more or less than 1 degree. And I walk it all the time, and I've walked different segments. When you get done, you ask your watch, like it tells you how far you went and how many steps and the elevation change. And my watch typically says zero, zero elevation change. And I've gone 3, 4, miles there on it. Now, in addition to that, they, no more of a curve than 3 degrees anywhere along the entire route. And so if they got to a mountain, they just blasted their way through it. And the deepest area is 120 feet deep from like where the top of the hill to where the tracks actually are. And if they came to a valley, they just filled it in with the debris that they had blasted out. And so a project like this required, literally tons and tons of dynamite. I mean, just working on the Anoa Low Grade was really dangerous. The job claimed over 200 lives of men. Most of them died in horrible dynamite accidents. Just again, this is pre any kind of OSHA safety laws. And, guys were, killed in premature explosions or just too close to the explosion site or just from flying debris. I've seen some photos where there's just a line of men on a hill and they're just passing box of dynamite to box of dynamite, just going up the hill so they can pack in these explosions or explosives. So, one of the companies that got a contract to build all of this dynamite was here in Conestoga Township, really close to the Anoa Low Grade in Shanks, what is today Shanks Ferry Nature Preserve. And, one of the things you have to know about dynamite factories back then is typically you only use the building for 1 to 2 years because the entire time you're packing all of this dynamite, explosive powders are settling in the floors and settling in the walls. And the longer you're using that building, the higher the probability of an accidental explosion. And it wouldn't take much. I mean, this is an age when everyone smoked, cigars and cigarettes and pipes. Fun fact about cigars, they're often referred to as stogies because we had a cigar factory here in Conestoga, and that's kind of where that nickname as Stogie was born from, Conestoga Stogie. So, that's where that came from. So, you're in an age where lots of guys are smoking, or even just a static electricity shock would be enough in a building like that to set off the dynamite.
Well, the risk factor of these men and maybe women who are coming into this place of work, they must have known the risk as they were doing this job.
It was, absolutely. It was good pay, and there just isn't a lot of jobs nearby. And so this was somewhere to work. And there were women working there. They didn't necessarily work in the punch house, but the site employed about 40 people. And I think like about a dozen of them were women. And from what I've read, I'm not really sure exactly what all their jobs were, but there was probably some secretarial work and some things like that that they were engaged in. And so, they're producing all of this dynamite for the Anoa Low Grade project, this unbelievably massive engineering project. In today's money, it would have cost $500 million to build this rail line. And the crazy thing is it stopped operation in 1989. So it's not even in use today. I think like every time I walk there on this rail trail, I'm like, wow, this costs $500 million for me to go on a hike with my dogs, which is kind of crazy.
I didn't realize the longevity of how long it lasted, though.
Yeah, so about I think 86 years from like, it opened in 1906 and the last freight train ran in 1989. So, here we are. The factory's well over 2 years because it's been producing dynamite for the Anoa Low Grade all along. And, the workers had written management and said, it's been a while. We should be building a new building here for the dynamite. And whether they're just pinching pennies or maybe mail service was slow back then like it is today, I don't know, but it just never happened. So then on June 9th, 1906, at 12:42, the worst possible thing happens and the dynamite accidentally goes off. And it is horrific. So instantly, this pressure wave flies out from the epicenter of the explosion. And people as far as 1.5 miles away report having their windows broken, plates falling off of shelves, and even a barn being dislodged from its foundation.
Oh my gosh.
Just a massive pressure wave. So that, it's 2,500 pounds of dynamite. A few seconds after that is the sound wave, and that just goes out 15 miles. And so, as far south as Maryland, people well across the county line in York, and towns far north in Lancaster report hearing this massive, massive explosion. And of course, the worst of it is the men right there at the epicenter of the explosion. And so 11 men are killed, and they're more or less just vaporized. Another 9 are injured in the explosion. A few minutes later, the nearby glycerin house explodes, adding more just destruction and everything. And there's a photo, and you can see they have a few days before, and there's trees and there's the buildings, and then they have a picture from the day after. And it is, again, all the trees are flattened. There's no buildings left. It just, again, this horrible, horrible accident. So they immediately halt work on the Anoa Low Grade, and they bring a lot of the workers in and on what is basically a recovery operation. And there is an article in the newspaper of an employee on this recovery mission, and he compares it to picking chestnuts. These the body parts that they're finding, and they're finding them 300 yards away, and they're in trees, and it's just this horrible, gruesome, grisly sight. So 2 days later, they have a mass funeral at Colemanville United Methodist Church. It's about 2 miles away. And of the 11 men, only one is identified. He had a scar on his arm, and they found a piece of that. And this predates any kind of DNA testing. And so they just kind of gathered up all the bits and pieces and put them in a box. And you can go to the cemetery today, and there's a large tombstone there, this mass grave, commemorating this horrible accident, and you can see where they're buried. But just this horrible, horrible accident, and you can still visit the location today. There's a plaque out in the middle of the woods that commemorates what happened, and in this now it's just forest, but just this amazing thing that happened, and worst accident in Lancaster County history.
Oh my goodness. Yes, that definitely wins that award.
It does. Terrible stuff. People can actually go if they want to see the site. They can visit it on the Bosman Hollow Adventure, and it's one of the stops along the way. You get to go out in the woods and and find the plaque out there, and you can still see a stone foundation, what was most likely from one of the buildings that used to be there. And last summer, I went out there on the day of the anniversary and just kind of, thought about this, that horrible event and the tragic life that was lost there. And, in that moment, just when, companies were putting profits in front of, people, in this, modernization effort to build these grand railroads and other major projects.
Oh my goodness. Well, I think this is such a fascinating piece of Lancaster's history, and to be able to go and walk and see where these people worked and the sacrifice that they made, just to pay like homage to what they did. It'd be really neat for you and your family to get out there and just walk the trail and check it out. So any other information you can give to us, Adam, as to how we can get there, we'll put up your link at the bottom of the screen here to go check out unchartedlancaster.com and not only check out this adventure, but some other adventures that Adam has to offer. Adam, we're so happy that you joined us today, and we're looking forward to the next episode we have with you because there are more adventures to come.
Thanks, Lauren. It was great to be here. I'll talk to you later.
All right, see you soon.